My family disowned me for buying a van home instead of paying for my brother's master's degree. Don't call yourself our daughter, my mom said. 3 days later, my brother showed up at my van. What happened next left me speechless. I had no choice but to call the cops. Hi. I'm Helena. I'm 24 and until last week I thought I was a functional adult. I live in a 300-square-foot studio where the ceiling fan makes that ominous clicking noise you hear in horror films right before the power cuts. I work full-time as a billing assistant and study web design part-time at night, which means I sleep like almost never. But I had a plan. A quiet little plan with no balloons or confetti, just me and a slow-burn dream of getting out of my overpriced rental and one day owning something that was mine. I had $19,000 saved. $19,000 earned by cutting coupons, skipping vacations, and saying no to everything fun for 3 years straight. My parents knew about it. So did my older brother, Roger. That night was the usual Sunday dinner. Dad reheated something from the freezer that looked like it had lost a fight. Mom opened her second bottle of Riesling. Roger was already 2 glasses deep and explaining how middle management is where real leadership begins, like it was wisdom passed down from the gods. I sat there quietly rehearsing the line in my head. I bought a van. I bought a van. I bought a van. When Dad finally asked, "So, anything new with you?" I took a breath and went for it. "Yeah. I bought something." Mom glanced up. "Oh. A van." The silence came fast and sharp. Roger raised an eyebrow. "Like, for camping?" "No. To live in." Dad frowned. "How much did you spend?" 19 grand, I said. "Almost all of my savings." Mom actually laughed. "You're joking." "I'm not. I've been looking for a while. It's in decent shape. I'll be converting it." Roger blinked. "You spent 19 grand to be homeless?" "It's not," I caught myself. "It's not that. I just need to save on rent while I finish school." Dad frowned. "And you didn't talk to us before doing this?" "It's my money." Mom leaned back in her chair. "We thought you were saving for something real." I shrugged. "This is real." Roger was already shaking his head. "And here I am scraping together funds for grad school. You could have helped. Instead you bought a rust bucket." "I didn't realize I was legally required to sponsor your resume." "That's not what he means," Mom cut in. "We've always supported each other. That's how families work." "Funny," I said. "I don't remember it going both ways." "Don't start," Dad warned. I didn't. I just sat there swallowing it. Roger made a noise like a laugh. "Look, if you didn't want to be part of the team, you could have just said so. I don't think me living cheaply is some personal betrayal." "You didn't just make a poor financial decision," Mom snapped. "You made us all look ridiculous." That one actually stunned me. "Seriously?" "Yes, seriously," she said. "What are people supposed to think? That we can't even keep our daughter off the street? It's a van, not a sidewalk." "That's not the point." I didn't answer. Roger swirled his wine. "I mean, this is going to hurt my image too. You know how tight the circles are in finance." "Wow," I said. "This isn't even about me anymore, is it?" Dad gave me a long look. "You made your bed." "I made a bed platform," I muttered. "Out of plywood. It has storage underneath." Nobody laughed. "We're just disappointed," Mom said, voice low and flat. "You could have been part of something bigger. But you chose this." "I thought you'd be glad I'm trying," I said quietly. Roger stood. "We all make sacrifices, Helena. Maybe it's time you learned that." Mom didn't even look at me when she said it. "If you want to be homeless and live in a van, then don't call yourself our daughter." There was silence. A part of me waited for her to take it back. Or at least look at me. For someone, Dad, Roger, anyone, to say it was a joke. That she didn't mean it. But no one said a word. It probably lasted 5 seconds. Felt like a year. I nodded slowly. "Right." That's all I said. No speech, no sarcasm. Just right. Then I picked up my coat and left. It wasn't dramatic. Nobody followed. The door clicked shut behind me and that was it. I don't even remember driving back. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in the van. The mattress was still propped against the wall, and the cheap curtain I'd tried to hang had fallen, sagging like it gave up halfway through. I sat down on the floor. No insulation yet. Just cold metal and splinters. I didn't cry. I wasn't angry. Just tired. Heavy in a way I couldn't quite explain. And maybe it's weird, but my brain went to this one random memory. When I was 10 and I taped cutout stars to my bedroom ceiling. My parents helped me hang fairy lights. I remember thinking, wow, they really love me. That memory's been doing a lot of heavy lifting since then. Maybe too much. I thought being disowned would be the worst part. Turns out that was just the beginning. I don't remember driving back to the van. I just remember sitting there in the dark, jacket still zipped, forehead pressed to the cold window. I kept replaying the dinner like it was a movie I'd seen 100 times but only just now understood. If you want to be homeless and live in a van, then don't call yourself our daughter. That line. Flat, effortless, like she was reading a weather report. I didn't cry. That would have made too much sense. I just sat there trying to figure out how a sentence that short could scrape out your insides. And the worst part? I didn't see it coming. I honestly thought, stupidly maybe, that they'd be a little surprised, maybe even uncomfortable with my choice. But proud. In their way. I wasn't asking for balloons or a parade. I just thought they'd see the effort. That I'd saved. That I was planning for something. That I was trying to make a life. But instead I got erased. And maybe if that had been the only thing, just the dinner, just that sentence, I'd still be sitting in a confused fog trying to excuse it. But the truth is, this didn't come out of nowhere. My brother Roger is 6 years older than me. According to my parents, he's the family's investment property. A guaranteed return. A legacy. He was planned. I was not. When I was little, I used to think we were close. He let me tag along sometimes when his friends were over. I thought that meant something. But I think even back then I was more of a mascot than a sister. It was always Roger first. And not in a cliché, oh he's older so he gets everything first way. I mean in a literal, everything goes to Roger way. They helped him get into his dream school. Paid for tutors, prep courses, networking events. When he studied finance at Columbia, my mom called it a family effort. Which is how I learned that family effort meant I got a part-time job in high school and contributed half my paycheck to his books and train passes. When I asked about saving for my own future, my dad said, "You'll have more options when Roger's established. He'll help you." He didn't. He still hasn't. But every time I brought it up, I was reminded to be patient. He's got so much pressure on him, Helena. You'll get your turn. My turn became a community college course I paid for in monthly installments. I didn't get a laptop. I used a dusty desktop I found on Craigslist. When I asked if they'd help me even just a little with tuition, my mom told me it was bad timing. "We just helped Roger with a down payment," she said, like it was a weather delay. "We'll circle back to you." That's been the pattern my entire life. They framed everything as a collective decision. A shared pot. If we all pitch in now, Roger can thrive and then we all benefit later. But later became a ghost. A word used to keep me quiet. What kills me is I believed it for years. I believed that helping him was helping me. That we were a team. That if I just kept working, kept smiling, kept carrying the weight, eventually they'd turn around and say, "Hey Helena, it's your turn now." They never did. When I moved into my tiny studio, they didn't help me haul boxes. They didn't help cover the deposit. My mom actually frowned when she saw it and said, "Well, you chose this." And yeah, I did. Because what other choice was I ever given? I didn't even get the hand-me-downs. Roger moved into a luxury condo with an in-unit gym. I got the folding chair from our garage and a passive-aggressive text from Dad saying, "It builds character to furnish your own space." What's wild is how long I still hoped. That little voice saying, "Maybe they'll come around." You don't even notice it at first, but it keeps you soft. It makes you second-guess yourself. And that softness, they used it. Every family dinner, every group text, it was always some version of, "We're all in this together." But I was never in it. I was orbiting it. I used to think I was the quiet one. The dependable one. The one who didn't ask for much. But now I think I was just the one who learned how to take up less space. It's like that one memory I always clung to. I was 10, decorating my room with these paper stars I'd made. My dad walked by and actually helped me tape them up. My mom brought in string lights and plugged them in. We all sat there for a second and it felt warm and right. I held on to that like proof. They do love me. They helped me. They saw me. But no. I'm not so sure. Maybe I've been remembering it wrong. Or maybe I just wanted to so badly that I filled in the blanks. Maybe they helped out of boredom or obligation. or because Roger wasn't home and I was the only available outlet for their energy that day. Still, I kept thinking when I told them about the van, maybe they'd remember that moment. Maybe they'd help again. Or at least smile. Instead, they called it an embarrassment. A shame. A mistake. And when Mom said I wasn't their daughter anymore, I think some part of me, some childish part, waited for someone to say she didn't mean it. For someone to take it back. They didn't. So here I am. In a van that still smells like packing foam and hope, trying to untangle a family that only ever saw me when it was convenient. The worst part of realizing you were never the favorite isn't the injustice. It's the loneliness. You start questioning every hug, every smile, every kind word. Was it real? Or just part of the script to keep you useful? To keep you invested in someone else's climb? Sometimes I catch myself still hoping they'll call. That someone will say, "We were wrong. We see you now." But mostly I just want peace. A quiet corner of the world that's mine. Not borrowed. Not assigned. Not sacrificed for someone else's ambition. That's what the van is. Not a rebellion. Not a crisis. Just a small, stubborn act of building something for myself. Something I don't have to explain. Something I don't have to apologize for. Something that's mine. And even if it's just 4 wheels and a plywood bed frame right now, it's still more than they ever gave me. I didn't walk away from my family that night. They let me go. That's the part they'll never admit. Thursday started off weirdly. Calm. The kind of calm you don't trust. Like the eye of a hurricane or the 10 minutes after you submit your final project and start convincing yourself you forgot to attach the file. I was halfway through scraping dried caulk off a window frame in the van when someone knocked on the back door. I didn't even need to look. No one else knocks like they're owed something. I slid the door open and there he was. Roger. Crisp button-down, nice jacket, and an expression that hovered somewhere between regret and smug reassurance. "Hey," he said. "You got a minute?" I should have said no. But I didn't. I stepped aside. He looked around like he was entering a museum exhibit. "Wow. You've been busy." I didn't respond. He pointed at the small bench I'd rigged from scrap wood and foam. "Can I sit?" I shrugged. He sat. I stayed standing. "I've been thinking about what Mom said," he started. "About disowning you. That was harsh." I raised an eyebrow. "Just that." He sighed. "Okay, all of it. Got out of hand. Look, I know I've asked for a lot over the years. But you've always been the one we could count on." That word again. Count. "I didn't come to ask for anything," he said quickly. I wanted to say you were right. About needing to do something for yourself. And this," he gestured around the van, "I mean it's different. But it's smart. Rent-free. Minimalist. It's kind of cool. I didn't buy it. But I wanted to. So when he offered to help finish installing the second curtain rod, I let him. Just like when we helped you decorate your room that one time," he joked. And stupid me, I smiled. He stayed about half an hour. Tightened a few bolts. Made a joke about how I should post a van life video for his followers. Then I checked the time and said I had to leave for my shift. "I could stay," he offered. "You've got the instructions taped up. I'll finish the shelf you started." My gut wobbled. But I wanted to believe. So I handed him the keys. "Lock up when you leave." He nodded like he meant it. When I got back, I noticed it before I even got out of the car. The door was cracked open. Just a little. Just enough to make the back of my neck go cold. Inside was a mess. Not the kind of mess that comes from clumsiness. Not the oops I spilled paint kind. The mattress was slashed. Foam shredded and strewn across the floor. The bench was ripped from the wall. My storage bins were turned out, dumped, kicked. The curtain rod we hung together, bent in half. And the smell, acrid like chemical cleaner and something worse. I stood in the doorway for a long time. Long enough for the reality to drip in one agonizing thought at a time. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a break-in. I called him. He picked up after 4 rings, casual as ever. "Hey, what's up? You were the last person in the van." Pause. "Yeah, I locked up." "Why?" Srecked Roger. "Everything's trashed." Another pause. Then laughter. Low and sharp. "Oh. That. I mean, come on, Helena. You didn't actually think I was on board with this circus, did you? You said." "I said what you needed to hear. So you'd let me in." I couldn't speak. "You should be thanking me," he said. Honestly, I did you a favor. You think living in a van makes you look independent? It makes you look unstable. I clenched my jaw. You destroyed my home. That thing wasn't a home. It was a publicity disaster waiting to happen. You live in that thing and you make all of us look like trash. What happens when someone from my firm finds out? Or one of Mom's clients? I closed my eyes, trying not to scream. Look, I get it, he said. You wanted to prove something. But this was embarrassing. You should be glad I stepped in before you ruined your own life. And then he hung up. I stood there for a full minute holding the phone like it might apologize. It didn't. The only sound was the wind rattling the bent paneling and my own breath, fast and shallow. I don't remember cleaning up. Just flashes. Ripping open trash bags. Pulling wet insulation from corners. Trying not to cry when I found my web design textbooks soaked through. I didn't call my parents. What would be the point? They wouldn't believe me. Or worse, they would. And they'd agree with him. What I did do, though, was open my browser. And that's when I remembered something Roger didn't know. Every night I parked the van under the same light post. In the same lot. The one next to the old municipal building. The one with the security camera. Not for safety. Not really. I just didn't want to take any chances. And just like that, I had what I needed. The footage wasn't hard to get. Turns out, when you tell the clerk at the municipal office that your brother trashed your van, and you have a timestamp and a badge number from the security post, they don't ask many follow-up questions. I filled out a form. Waited 24 hours. And then there it was, grainy high-angle footage of Roger letting himself in, staying for about an hour, and walking out like a guy who just finished taking out the trash. Except the trash was my life. I brought the footage to the police the same day. The officer watching the video didn't say much. Just scribbled some notes and nodded at the parts where Roger kicked open one of the cabinet doors and yanked down the makeshift shelf I'd been so proud of. Vandalism. Possibly criminal mischief, he said. You want to press charges? I blinked. Is there an option not to? He smirked a little. Some people don't like filing charges against family. I stared at the screen. Roger had just stepped on my string lights like they offended him personally. I think he gave up that title. Paperwork was filed. Case was opened. And that's when the real circus started. It took about 48 hours before my parents found out. I knew because my mom called me 11 times in a row and then sent a text that read, "Call me now. Family." That last word in all caps like it was a hostage situation. When I didn't respond, she called again. I finally picked up on call 13. Her voice came through sharp and furious. How could you do this to your brother? I laughed. Not a real laugh. One of those quiet, hollow ones that slip out when you've run out of ways to process. He destroyed my van, I said. He destroyed my home. You live in a van, Helena. You disowned me for it. Remember. She ignored that. You're pressing charges? Do you know what this could do to his future? I'm aware. He's already on leave while they investigate. If he gets a criminal record. Then he shouldn't have destroyed someone's property, I said calmly. Actions have consequences. I thought you guys loved teaching lessons. That didn't go over well. Dad called next. Then Roger himself, leaving me a 3-minute voicemail where he somehow managed to both insult me and play the victim in the same breath. Something about how I tricked him, how I set him up, how I was ruining his future over a pile of wood on wheels. I didn't respond. Not to any of them. Then came the emails. Family members I hadn't heard from in years suddenly had very strong opinions. Apparently, taking legal action against your brother, who called you unstable and then destroyed your home, is going too far. One email actually said, "Blood is thicker than justice." I didn't know whether to laugh or frame it. The hearing came 2 weeks later. Roger showed up in a suit that probably cost more than my entire savings. He didn't look at me once. Just stared straight ahead like the very sight of me might stain his resume. The judge didn't take long. The footage was clear. The damage was extensive. He was ordered to pay restitution, $18,750 in total. And since this wasn't his first entitled outburst, apparently there was an incident at work that HR had buried, he was placed on probation. A week later, my aunt forwarded me something she'd heard through the grapevine. Roger's admission had been quietly revoked. They can't accept students with active charges or probation, she said. He's devastated. I didn't respond. Just stared at the message. It was done. The van was gone. The future he sacrificed it for? Gone too. I used the restitution money to buy a different van. One with actual insulation. Real cabinets. A working heater. I found a mechanic who used to be a furniture maker, and together we built a little slice of peace on 4 wheels. By the time the seasons shifted, I'd finished my web design certificate. I took a job with a small agency that didn't care where I lived as long as I had Wi-Fi. I parked the van on the edge of a quiet field where wildflowers grew like weeds and the sunrise came in through the back window like an apology. I found others like me. Quiet people who didn't fit the mold, people who needed space to breathe. Some lived in tiny houses. Some in vans. All of them had stories. One night we sat around a fire, passing around a dented thermos of cocoa, and I told mine. I didn't cry. I didn't need to. I still thought about my family. Not often. But sometimes. Around the holidays. When I heard a song my mom used to hum while doing dishes. When I found myself almost texting Roger to ask what job he ended up with. Fast forward 3 years. I still live in a van, a much better one but not for long. I managed to save enough for a down payment on a real house. Not huge, not flashy, but mine. Something I never could have pulled off if I'd stayed renting and waiting for approval that was never coming. I'm moving in next month. I don't hear from my parents anymore. Not directly. But I know they're still telling people I went off the grid. As if I'm somewhere in the woods with no shoes and a broken compass. Roger, last I heard, is still working. Not in finance. Something contract-based and forgettable. He lost the condo, downsized, tried to start over. That part I actually hope works out for him. But we haven't spoken. And I don't think we ever will. Anyway, that's what happened. If you made it this far, thanks for listening. Really, I don't know. Maybe I went too far. Maybe not far enough. You tell me. Drop a comment. And if you enjoy stories like this, hit subscribe.